Welcome to Awakened Motherhood, the podcast where mothers share their powerful stories of healing and empowerment. I am your host, Amanda Quick, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and advocate. In each episode, we dive deep into the stories of mothers who have overcome adversity, found their fierce feminine power, and embraced transformative parenting. Whether you're a mother driven to fight for your children or someone with a story burning inside you, this podcast is for you. Together, we'll explore themes of resilience, self-trust, and healing from our traumatic experiences, all spotlighting the profound journeys of awakened mothers. Join us for a space of naked authenticity, deep inspiration, and genuine connection. Embrace the divine feminine and discover your own warrior mama within. Welcome to Awakened Motherhood, where your story is the spark for change. Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Awakened Motherhood. I'm your host, Amanda Quick, and today I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Shelley. Dr. Shelley Prasad, known as the chiropractor and the author of Somatophobia, a guided sacred cannabis journey to your higher self. As a chiropractor, she removed interference in the nervous system so that the power that made the body could heal the body. Burnt out watching her patients return with the same pain, coupled with her burnout in her own healing journey. She knew more was possible. In her relentless pursuit to heal herself, cannabis guided her into her womb, and she found everything she was looking for. She birthed a book she wished she had read 20 years ago, Somatophobia, as she birthed a transformative self-healing methodology called body-mind synchronization, womb kriyas, and sacred secretion somatic sequences. As a womb shaman, she guides you on the longest journey of your life, from your head to your womb, to awaken the power that made your body so that you can use it to heal your body. Amazing. Love it. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Amanda. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We had a really great conversation a couple months ago about the womb healing journey, and I've shared some on this podcast. So I'm really excited to dig into your story, because even just reading, there's so many layers to how you kind of come through this journey and the ahas that had to happen along the way to now kind of like have all these puzzle pieces together. And so I would love for you to kind of just start in your own words where the journey began.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on your show. And as you said, what a journey it has been. Where literally, and I'll shorten the journey because it's been quite a long one, just with, growing up and some of my own health challenges that I had and seeing the medical diagnoses and their solutions. For example, at 13, what propelled me onto the chiropractic path was my knees were giving out on me. They would just kind of pop and dislocate a little bit, and I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. And it was really painful. So orthopedic surgeons wanted to break both of my heels and reset them, which would mean I wouldn't be able to walk for 6 months, allowing my feet to reset.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's going to fix my knees? So at that moment, I asked my parents, I need a second opinion. I do not want to have surgery. There has to be a more non-invasive solution for this. And that is when I went into a chiropractor's office, and just the philosophy of chiropractic made sense to me. The power that made the body heals the body. It was like my inner compass went ding, 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 ding. Okay. Chiropractor explained the biomechanics of my body. If my pelvis is misaligned, muscles, fascia, everything's down to my knees are going to be misaligned. And I was like, I found the solution. I don't need the orthopedic surgery. Yay, And then I had another stint at 16. I had kidney stones, and I went a month undiagnosed. Doctor after doctor after doctor after specialist. I can't tell you how many doctors I went to for something simple as kidney stones. They either didn't know what was wrong with me, or they misdiagnosed me that one of my kidneys had died. And I'm like, wait,
Oh, wow.
What?
At 16?
My kidney died? And I'm like, no, I need another opinion. So I lost all faith in giving my power away to others to tell me what to do with my body. And then when I became a chiropractor, I didn't just want to be that, no offense, but 3 minutes in and out, snap, crackle, pop. There you go. See you next week. I knew more was possible. And even throughout school, I questioned, okay, why? I'm young. Why do I have to come 3 times a week and keep getting adjusted? Why is my body not holding its alignment? It should be. What am I missing here? And I stumbled my way through different modalities that were more energetic modalities or modalities that I felt worked for me. But then when I got into practice, I kept seeing and feeling, more importantly, feeling in my hands how disembodied people were, how they weren't connected to their body, how much they wanted the quick fix, how much they gave their power to me to take away their pain. And I'm like, that pain has been there. There's a root cause causing your sciatica. It's not how you fell. It's not how you slept. It's not this or that. Yes, you need to change those things, but there's a deeper root cause there. But I couldn't guide my patients there unless they were more spiritually open, so to say. But I wanted all my patients to be able to get to the root cause. I didn't want them to keep coming back to me.
Well, and it's a very different model than so much of the medical system where they're actually would just prefer to keep, paying customers, essentially.
That's just it. I remember actually telling a patient, if you don't change anything in your life, you're going to keep coming back to me. I don't want to keep taking your money. I don't want to see you. I want you to get better and not have to come back and see me. And that's what led to my burnout. I'm seeing some of the same patients over and over and over. And I'm like, I'm losing my fun and passion. I didn't become
I can't actually helping.
That's just it. And I don't want their power. I felt them give me their power. Well, doc, I'm in pain again. Or, a day after I left you, the pain came back. And I'm like, that's not my fault. If your body is not holding the adjustment, we need to look at why it's not holding the adjustment. It's not my fault. Or, the patient who won't leave my office until the pain is completely gone. And I'm like, what do I do with this patient the pain has been there for 30 years, but nope, they will not get off my table until, doc, that pain is still there. I'm not leaving. And I had a few of those, and I'm sitting there going, what do I do with this? I can't make that pain go away when it's been there for 30 years. Are you crazy?
Right. Well, and it's such a standard in society. Who's going to fix me?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to save me? Who's going to solve my problems? I am, in this invalid child, no idea what I'm doing in the world. Somebody. And, I've had that experience in many different systems. I also never had trust in the medical system, but even, I went through bouts of going to the chiropractor also all the time, but it was always around certain specific times in my life that I needed that regular care because there was something else going on. But eventually I would shift that other thing and I no longer needed those regular adjustments. And so I think there's you already had that connection. And I remember even talking to a chiropractor and saying that I was working on these deeper things. And he said to me, so few patients are even willing to talk about it. I don't bother.
That's just it. I saw how many patients, emotions, yeah, no, I'm good. Total deny, I don't want to go there. And of course, within the scope of a chiropractic practice, the moment I open up the emotion, it turns into a 2-hour visit.
Right. So, which you can't do. You get another patient coming in 10 minutes.
Absolutely. And even at the time, I was doing, 30 to 45 minute adjustments. But even that, within that time period, they want to tell me the story. So there was very limited time to really get them to the root cause. But that was one pillar of my burnout. And then in my own healing journey, I had tried so many different modalities, self-help books and motivational seminars and yoga and breathwork and traditional meditation and you name it, I did it because I was looking to heal myself. And it was superficial, short-lived results. I'd be good for a week or two. And then when the triggers would show up, I'm like, that's the same wound. Yes, it's showing up differently, but it's still the same wound. How many times do I have to peel away the layers of that onion? When it doesn't feel like when the trigger shows up, it doesn't feel like I've done any work on it at all.
Right. I thought I've been working on this for 10 years. Why is it
still here? And that was my own burnout. So long story short, I found plant medicine or plant medicine found me and I discovered the missing link, which was my ego. I was doing all of these modalities I was, even with my patients, they couldn't get into their body because the ego had such thick armor protecting them from feeling the pain of the unhealed trauma stored in the body. So the ego's like, no, 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 you don't want to go there. And if you go there, that means I'm going to lose power and control over you. And I don't want to lose power and control over you. And
Right. It's this element of like safety that they don't feel safe in their bodies. So there's no way in because why would I go back there?
exactly. And then without rites of passages, without knowing, because in school, we didn't have a class on here is how to express your emotions. Here's how to regulate your emotions. Here's how to free all those suppressed emotions. Here's how to go into your body and transmute stuck energies from past traumas, not just yours, but those that you inherited. Those that you don't remember that are locked away in your unconscious mind during those 9 months you were in your mother's womb, thinking and processing all of her thoughts, feelings, and emotions as yours when they were hers. We didn't learn any of that, but we should have. It's like that's the instruction
in
manual
like
for our
kindergarten.
body, right? And think
Yep.
about who we would be if we had learned that in kindergarten. That, oh, it's okay to feel sadness. I can let these tears flow and I can communicate if someone's asking me, hey, are you okay? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Instead of, are you okay? Oh, okay, yeah, I got to put on a smile. I'm not supposed to cry because crying means I'm weak and
Shove.
push it all down. We were never taught what to do. We were never taught all of these feelings and sensations of our body and what they mean and truly how to heal ourselves. And because of that, that has led us to becoming disembodied. And the ego, who is, I always joke about this because it's like the sole purpose of the ego is to serve and protect, kind of like the police slogan, to serve and protect.
Yeah, keep us safe.
And you look at both and you're like, neither the ego nor the police are doing exactly what their purpose is.
No, no, no. But on a primitive level, they are trying to keep you safe, which means attached to the society that you believe is supporting you. It means
Totally.
all of the assigned beliefs, right?
Totally. Except it grows and it grows until it becomes the master over you. And it tries to keep you safe from literally everything, including that which can help you heal. So, long story short, cannabis being the core medicine that I work with, it's like her and I call her a her because same as psilocybin or ayahuasca, their spirits are referred to as she's and hers because they're mother medicine. They are the feminine essence. And a lot of people don't know because, again, no rite of passage even for these sacred plant medicines, that cannabis is a sacred medicine. All we know, due to no rites of passages, is that there's recreational use and then there's medicinal use, both of which lead to codependencies, checking out, and addiction, because they're not really taking advantage of the full benefit of cannabis as our healing ally. And one plant medicine led to another, but it was Bufo that opened the door, and then cannabis was able to step in, and I rebirthed my relationship with her from, a Friday night evening, recreational kind of long week at the chiropractic office. My shoulders are hurting from adjusting all my patients, so let me just enjoy my evening in my backyard with cannabis, to only imbibing her now in my daily practice, and not every day, but in a self-healing practice. And there's so many reasons why she can truly be our healing ally. And I call her the divine union plant. And a lot of people don't realize our bodies were born with an endocannabinoid system. And that system is a system that guides us back into divine union. It's its sole purpose. Except it's not really functioning due to the thickness of the ego, due to our fight, flight, freeze that we live in. So we actually, our head honcho master control system that keeps everything in balance is slightly dysfunctional.
Right.
So with all of these factors, we're disembodied, disassociated, all these unhealed traumas, suppressed emotions in the body, ego is really thick. So of course, when I would try to sit in meditation or do a little bit of breath work or do subconscious reprogramming and just try to change the stories of the trauma from a mental state, of course it didn't work. I wasn't dropping into my body. I wasn't uprooting those root causes. So like with meditation, one of my frustrations was, so the goal is to get rid of all these thoughts. Well, how am I going to just get rid of them? Don't they have roots? Aren't they connected to a feeling or an emotion in my body? I can't just meditate and focus on the thoughts to get rid of them. I have to connect and go deep into the root, which is below the neck, which is where the ego does not venture. Ego lives up in the reptilian brain, afraid to leave its little cave.
Yeah. And I think so many people can relate to trying to meditate and just the runaway thoughts in your, just clear your thoughts. It's like,
How?
they live in there.
Right?
Yeah, I definitely relate.
I mean, on average, we have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Break that down. That's 40 to 60 to 70 every minute. That's one a second. It's like thoughts. I'm not even aware of all of those thoughts. But when you sit down in a meditation practice, like, oh shit, you start focusing on your breath and then thought pulls you away. Focus on your breath, thought pulls you away. How am I supposed to truly commit to this self-healing journey and practice when I'm worried about my practice and money and and all the bills and the stresses of being an adult and responsibilities? How can I sit down and truly be in a state of peace and calm when, like you said, the to-do list? Well, I have to pay this one and I have to get patients and I got that. It's just the go. So, long story short, it took me a few years to give birth to this book, which was being birthed while I was healing myself. Cannabis. Literally, her higher self came to me and she's like, Shelly, I know you've been looking external. I know you're frustrated. I know you're burnt out. If you trust me, if you change how you consume me, and if you trust me, I will guide you to everything you're looking for and then some more. And I'm like, done. Where do I sign? Yes, please. Because I was at rock bottom. I was literally like, I give up. I've tried everything and nothing is working for me. I'm missing something and I need help. And I don't know where to turn because I've literally looked and searched for everything.
Outside of yourself.
Outside of myself, of course, which is literally where humanity lives. We live outside of ourselves. So that's why I wrote the book, because I'm like, if I struggled, there's other people out there struggling, living outside, looking externally, blaming externally. Everything is external, but it's like, no, we need to come back internal.
Yes, 100%.
And if we look, and where this really begins, if we look at religion, and the analogy is back to the body. Our body is a temple. Temples house what? Divinity, gods, goddesses. So our body is a temple that houses our own god and goddess. But instead, we've been living in a society for the last between 2,000 to 6,000 years that we have to go to an external temple to pray to an external god. And, the whole goddess portion is eliminated from it. She's deemed as evil. So we've literally been indoctrinated to look externally for everything, to want the quick fix, to not have to actually go within and do the deep, hard, dirty work called healing.
I relate so much. In my journey, in my story, I was looking outside of myself. I was looking the systems that are supposed to protect us, so the legal systems, the people who were supposed to solve the problems, and none of them actually had the answers. Actually, doing so made it worse every single time. And couldn't understand. And that was, my rock bottom was, not about my physical health, but about the world I was living in. And I can't go on like this. I can't continue like this. And I think a lot of people get to some version of that. And you feel helpless because what your belief system tells you is supposed to be working isn't working.
Yeah.
And you can't hide from that anymore. And it gets bad enough where it's just, we can't keep doing this. And I think it's a lot of people's catalyst for the spiritual journey coming in, because all of a sudden, we are looking outside of ourselves and it's this like a big aha. We forgot to look in the mirror. We forgot to go, wait a minute. If it's not out here, what other options are there?
I know, right?
Oh.
It's so simple. Yet we forget.
we forget, we're never told. It's set up that way. And that's the hard part is, especially as moms raising kids, thinking about that, everybody was doing the best they could with what they had, but they are passing down this story. And so how do we want to shift that? We first have to do it with ourselves, because as much as we never had the class to talk about emotions, like you said, we also never had any model for what that looked like.
Absolutely
ever.
not.
And, and from my perspective, that role lies on me as their mother, as they were directly connected to my womb. And so the more work I do, the more work I model. And while I can have the intellectual conversation to satisfy the ego, the more important work is to actually be in my body and reflect that for them.
Absolutely. And because you said something so valuable there, that if we just put into perspective, the last 500 years equates to about 13 generations of ancestors. And that equates to 16,382 people over the course of 500 years and 13 generations. And if we just go back 500 years, how many people over the last 500 years experienced some form of trauma?
All of them,
right?
All of them.
So that's at least, and let's say they each have one trauma. That's 16,382 individual traumas that got passed down through the DNA until here we are right now, until someone raises their hand and go, okay, this cycle ends with me. This abuse ends with me. This self-judgment ends with me. This betrayal and abandonment ends with me. Whatever it is, it ends with me. Especially being a mother, it's such a powerful responsibility because your healing flows forward to your children and backwards through all of your ancestors.
Yeah. No, I have seen it. I've seen the work. I come to a place and I release something, and all of a sudden my kids act differently. I didn't even tell them anything changed.
Exactly.
We were talking just before this about my oldest, who's been going through this mute phase. What I didn't talk about was all of the work and the repatterning and the awarenesses and the shifting I was doing over these 5 weeks, because I knew there was a reflection for me in this. He also had responsibility as his own sovereign being, but I knew that there was a piece for me because I was a direct recipient of that experience.
That, and he is your son.
And he's
right. So whatever he's being,
and he's my son,
it's like a reflection, like, oh, I gave birth to him. Okay. So he reflects something back to me. It's funny because even though I haven't given birth to children, I gave birth to my book, and it literally was an entire birthing process. And in the first year of it being released, well, a year this month, this entire year has just been a healing process for my book, looking at my book and going, okay, initially it's like, okay, there's some fears showing up of how am I going to promote it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, you know what? I need to clear that because I gave birth to the book with that.
Here's the stories coming back.
Exactly. And then it was the guilt of, I want to take some time for me and go enjoy life with my husband because I've been behind a computer for the last 3 years, 7 days a week.
Right.
And then the guilt shows up of, yeah, but you just published your book and now you need to get it out there in the world and you need to do. You can't just take time off. So it was like, okay, now I need to heal that guilt because I don't want to keep that guilt with my book because my book is going to create that. It's still life force. It's its own entity. It's like a baby. Yeah. And as it grows, it's like a child. It's going to grow with that trauma getting bigger and bigger. So it's been such a wild ride to experience this passing down of my traumas to my book and then healing and watching the healing of my book as well. Like, okay, this is really cool.
Yeah, no. And my book isn't a modality, but it is my story. But it was absolutely about pulling that out of me, in a sense, releasing the trauma, but encoding it as this gift. As this, as a child, as a gift to the world. It's this gift of understanding, of being seen. And it has taken a life of its own.
Yeah.
Yes, I've, enabled it. I've, introduced it. I've done different things, but people start to find me based on whatever got passed on. I didn't I didn't create that, and yet I did by, nurturing it through. And, I still don't know what is all going to happen, right? And neither, none of us do. But
Absolutely.
it is kind of this beautiful birthing, and in women especially, I find, at least those I speak to, like we go through so many rebirths, and yes, we birth children, but we also rebirth ourselves, and we rebirth ideas, and we rebirth all kinds of things that completely change who we are as we go through that process.
Absolutely. And that word rebirth is exactly the core essence of this self-healing methodology that I gave birth to. And it literally was me rebirthing myself over and over out of my pain body. So if we look at the mind, body, soul complex, it's an entire rebirth of the mind, body, and soul. So we've got the mind, which is masculine, the body, which is feminine, and then the soul, which is the divine union when the mind and body are connected. But when we live disembodied, our mind and body are divorced, which is mirrored in the high rates of divorce today. The men and women, or if it's a homosexual relationship, still the masculine and feminine in the relationship, it's just leading to divorce because it's a mirror of our inner divorce between our mind and body, our inner boy, our inner girl. And so in my rebirthing journey, it's been this rebirth of my mind out of my reptilian brain into my midbrain and then up into my higher brain, my divine mind. And then the body, from the pain body to the light body. And then from the soul level, we're either functioning from ego or what I call trauma self, the lower state of consciousness version that we identify with, rebirthing into our higher self. So this is what life is about. It's a constant let the old die, rebirth ourselves into our highest version of ourself, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely relate, not just in the journey I, publicly share, but even like right now, I'm in the midst of another version of it. I think because this is what's happening in the world. The world is in another version of it. We can see it. And so there's, I don't get caught up in I don't feel triggered or need to, I'm observing it. But at the same time, I'm going through my own process of releasing the old ties to the old ways of operating, the next pieces that are ready to go, and this like identity rebirth as I move through it. And, I think those that those who've been on this journey, right, it gets easier every time, but it still is a thing every time. Absolutely. And, I love you talk about being a womb shaman, right? And so, that's the path that you kind of use to access that part of your body and that journey. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like?
Absolutely. And it goes back to, that famous quote, the longest journey a man has to make is from his head to his heart by Buddha. And I always was like, from head to heart, what about the womb? Like, where is that?
We're missing something.
We have to drop all the way down. So coming back to the body is a temple that houses our inner god and goddess. The foundation or the floor of our temple is our pelvic floor. It's literally our root chakra. We have to descend all the way to there. Our heart's in the midway. So I'm like, So I kind of started taking. I started taking that apart. And one day in ceremony with cannabis was like, you know what he actually meant with that whole quote by Buddha? Head to womb and then the ascension back up to the heart. And I'm like, there it is. But due to the societal programming, all the shame and sin and taboo around the womb and sexuality, it can't be mentioned as a part of this journey home to our divinity.
Yeah.
And
it makes a lot of sense.
I'm like, there it is. Because in my own journey, and there's an entire portal in my book about this dark night of the womb pilgrimage, which is like a dark night of the soul, but it's the embodied version. Because a dark night of the soul, people can do it from a mental state. They can journal and, do all these things, logically processing. It's no different than talk therapy. You're opening the files to your subconscious mind, pulling out some files of stories and telling them, oh, okay, yeah, I see this, I see that, but there's no healing of it in the body. So a dark night of the womb pilgrimage is a dark night of the soul journey that is embodied. It's somatic. And it begins with that journey from our head, where our ego reigns from, the reptilian brain, dropping all the way down into our womb. And the womb has so many tangents that I could go off on, but just a few. Our womb is from where we give birth to, like we just discussed, not just children, but our books. They are literally life forms that we have given birth to. Every experience in our reality is created from our womb. And I like to paint this picture, coming back to those 16,382 ancestors. Imagine your womb as a cooking pot that has been passed down from that very first ancestor 500 years ago, down through, let's say, half, 8,000 of them, because the other half are men. But every single one of the men contributed to that cooking pot because, again, the womb is a sponge. So every time we engage in sex with someone, it's a sacred energetic exchange. I'm passing my traumas and wounds that are stored in my womb to my partner, and my partner is passing his to me. So that's where the 8,000, and then the men are contributing spices and different foods to the cooking pot. But over those 500 years, that cooking pot never got cleaned. Every single meal that was made, all the grime is still on the edges. It dries up, and then you cook another meal in it, and then it dries up, and you cook another meal in it, and it dries up again. And it just gets passed down generation after generation, and no one has ever cleaned it. That is the analogy of our womb being a cauldron that stores every unhealed trauma, childhood wound, suppressed emotion, fear, program, belief system, all the way back through our entire lineage, not just 13 generations, but all the way back. Every memory of our soul is stored in our womb, not just on this planet, but on other planets and other constellations. So there's so much stored in our womb that the traumas and the wounds, all the stuff that hasn't been cleaned, those are frequencies, just stuck energies. That's all they are. And which then physically manifest into womb symptoms, PCOS, which I struggled with, imbalanced hormones, which I struggled with, fibroids, which I struggled with. Those were inherited, not self-created. PCOS was self-created. Menstrual irregularity. So all of these womb symptoms are just a physical manifestation of the traumas and wounds. It's like our womb is crying, help, help, help. I need some TLC. Come down here. Drop in.
Right. And we're like, doctor, what pill should we take? What other nonsense should we add? Or how do we disassociate and, whatever other things we do, because we don't know another option.
Exactly. And even if we hear of the other option, it's scary. I just had a sister come for a retreat last week, and she's been running for 2 years. She's like, this is what I've been running from for 2 years. So she knew another option was available, but she chose to run for 2 years due to fear. So even when other options are presented in front of us, it's like there was a study done by a cancer doctor that showed that only 1 out of 10 cancer patients chose to make a change in their life. The rest were willing to settle for their terminal diagnosis. Knowing that there's another option available, nope, okay, I'm going to die in 6 months. That's my reality. And it's sad because I work with so many people who I see, because this journey from the head to the womb is so scary, that even people who are like, oh yeah, I'm embodied. I'm like, come join me in ceremony. Come join me and let's go on this journey. Because it is such a journey. There's so many, I call them demons. It's like, there's so many demons that we have to battle along this journey on the descent into our body. And then once we get into our womb, then we have to do cleanup duty, because that's our lower Garden of Eden. So that Buddha quote, we then have to ascend from our womb up to our hearts, up to our third eye, middle Garden of Eden, higher Garden of Eden. So then coming back down into the womb, not only is your womb the cauldron that gives birth to your reality, it's not only the home of every memory of your soul, it's also the home of that power that made your body, that heals your body. The home of our life force. It's the home of our Shaktis, which is our inner healer, our inner shaman, our guru. And we have to wake her up and then direct her into those stuck energies and blockages and armor that we feel in the body. That is how we can use the power that made the body, Shakti, to actually heal our body. And that's where I realized it was like light bulb moment. Oh, that's why I was playing small and I got burnt out. I'm just adjusting my patients' minds for the little bit of life force that they have awake because they're not in their body, for that little bit of life force to flow without interference. I'm like, playing small. What if I guide people into their womb to awaken their life force and then guide them in remembering how to actually use it to heal their body? Can get much better, permanent, long-lasting transformation versus superficial result that's just short-lived. And, next week, the same thing is going to show up again.
Right. So that also, in a sense, by helping others go to the deeper place, you're actually filling yourself up and you're receiving so much more in those experiences also, right? It's this, you don't have the same why are you back and why can't I, you're actually making those moves, filling you up and giving you energy that you need to continue.
Absolutely. And I'm constantly going deeper in my own journey. It's like every ceremony that I offer, it's like, okay, I feel it coming the days before and I do a deep dive. I'm like, I've already been here, but I'm going to deep dive it. What am I going to be, sharing with the sisters? Where am I going to be guiding them? Because I'm all about authenticity. Because when I entered the plant medicine world, I did not want to become another, kind of like as a chiropractor. I knew the kind of chiropractor I did not want to be. In and out. Just rotating people in and out my office. I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I started to see the same thing in the plant medicine world, just rotating people through medicine ceremonies, people going back 25 times to drink ayahuasca.
Wow.
Oh, I worked with
it just so they could see a vision and, experience something. And then they never actually drop in and be able to create that. And they become dependent on,
I saw so many pitfalls. I worked with a brother once. He did 100 ayahuasca ceremonies. And
oh my gosh.
And he didn't heal a single thing. Never dropped into his body. And he wanted to blame every shaman, every medicine. This medicine wasn't too strong. Wasn't strong enough. There were too many people in this ceremony. In this ceremony, this person next to me was screaming and crying, so I couldn't go deep. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, I hear that, and now you're here, so let's address this. But in my husband and I's own journey, living in Latin America, having even what people call indigenous shamans come and seek us out for their own healing, and we get to see the insides of this and go, wait a second, you don't know how to navigate the medicine, or you're afraid of the very medicine that you serve, and you're coming to me to know how to navigate the medicine or how to drop into your body because you've never done your own healing, yet you're out there hosting groups of 100 people and just having people rotate back. Yep, see you back in a few months, next ayahuasca. And like you said, this is where my intake form came in, where I asked people, how many plant medicine ceremonies have you attended? What have you healed? Have you ever been guided into your body? If not, these sacred plant medicines reveal us to us. They hold up the mirror. They're like, okay, you know what? We're going to heighten your consciousness and hold up the mirror so you can see you. That's all they do. They don't heal us. But people are seeking them out as though these plant medicines heal us. They don't.
They're giving their power to something
again, just like recreational cannabis use and medicinal cannabis use create addictions and dependencies. We have an endocannabinoid system. Sole purpose is to restore us to a state of divine union and balance. If we go into our body and we uproot the sources of imbalance, we can work alongside our endocannabinoid system now. We're both interdependent. We're not codependent on cannabis to do the healing for us, or the next ayahuasca ceremony, or the next shaman. We could actually go in and uproot the source of imbalance, moving closer to that permanent state of equilibrium. But again, we have such an attachment to the dependencies, and then there's the illusions, the spiritual traps.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one sister believes that she healed her yahe, the masculine version of ayahuasca, healed her cancer. And I'm like, sister, just because you do not have cancer right now, did you address the root cause of that cancer? Well, yahe showed me that it was my lack of self-love. Okay, so now let's look at what are you doing for self-love? Well, nothing. Still in that go, 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 do reality. When I guided her into her body, the guilt, the shame, the conditional love, the self-judgment was still there. So I'm like, do you see how you have given your power to believing that this medicine healed your cancer for you, when all it did is it may have helped you purge out the chemical, template for the cancer, gave you a little boost. Okay, I'm a breath of fresh air. Okay, I'm alive. I'm not going to kill myself, because we're just killing ourselves with cancer. We don't want to be alive.
Yeah.
When you go into your body and you start healing these root causes and freeing all those suppressed emotions that create a toxic environment for cancer to thrive in, then we really heal cancer. But it's so hard for people to have to see that, have to come to terms with that, wow, that one ceremony that I believe healed my cancer, you're telling me it didn't heal me? It's like, no, don't tell me that, because I've given my power to that belief and
I can't face that. Well, and I saw this with my mom. She just passed last July from cancer. And the year before, we worked so much because I knew that she was installing this, she was choosing this. And there was these unconscious patterns that were causing it. And we did lots and lots of work around it. And we got to a point where she really dropped into her body, and it was all about need to control. That was really her pattern there. And she dropped into her body, and she had this beautiful vision of soaring off this cliff and being free and releasing. And her cancer went away. But after her cancer went away, she went, I checked the box, I did it. And she immediately started doing exactly the same things that she always did, and had exactly the same projections and judgments and need to control. And her cancer came right back, and it came back faster and stronger. And at that point, she clearly had made her decision.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to watch, especially as her child. But I had the awareness from the beginning of what she was doing, and could just, you need to choose, but own your choice at least. And that was a harder one to do, because it's a lot easier to say, it's not my fault. I did the things. I don't understand.
I know, isn't it? It's this whole taking responsibility. Trust me, it's hard. I have a sisterhood where I hold my sisters accountable, because authenticity is 4,000 times more powerful than the frequency of unconditional love. Authenticity is the frequency of our higher self. It's when words, our masculine center of expression, throat, and actions, womb, when they align, because it's the actions that our Shakti goes out there and create that match with, okay, our words, our thoughts, our beliefs, our programs. But if they're not aligning, then we're misaligned. So, so many times this accountability piece feels like an attack. And that fight, flight, freeze response comes out. So it's like, hey, sister, so you said this last week, but now your action is doing this. Do you see how these two don't line up? You're saying one thing, doing another.
And your people are like,
and I had to get to a point in my sisterhood where I'm like, okay, sisters, let me remind you all again. I am not here to attack you. Your ego feels attacked, because your ego is the one that has been seen. Trauma self has been seen, and trauma self is like, no, you caught me. And then it wants to fight and reason and justify. And I'm like, remember, I am guiding you to your higher self. I'm not here to attack you. But that's the level, that's the external, what accountability looks like. So just individually, that level of accountability is really difficult because we have to see ourselves. We have to feel ourselves. We have to hear ourselves, the thoughts we think, the words we speak, the stories we tell. It's easier just to live checked out, to live disassociated, disembodied, daydreaming,
but it's not.
But it's not.
It might be easier in the moment, but it doesn't fill your cup. It doesn't actually feel good. And we manifest all kinds of things we don't actually want when we do that.
Exactly. And that's what I always say. My question is always, what's more painful? Holding on to all of that shit, but keeping it buried and pretending it's not there and checking out to not feel it. And then it exploding later in life, kind of like how you said your mother's cancer came back faster and stronger. That shit is gonna explode at some point or another. You can't keep it buried for too long.
It was already time because it was coming up, right? So it's just about, are we willing for this to be it, or do we want it to get bigger?
Exactly. So is it more painful to carry it, or is it more painful to just, you know what? I'm going to meet it, feel it, see it, hear it, transmute it, move through it, heal it, release it, let it go, and be done with it. Finally. To me, yes, it's painful to go through it, but it's so much less painful on the other side of it.
Yeah, no, I amen to that. I mean, and it doesn't necessarily make it stop the cycle of rebirth and change, but each one does get easier because we have more conscious memory of, okay, when we get through this, we know it's going to be better because we've experienced that.
Exactly.
At least that's been it's easier for my mind to get to this level of trust because we've been here.
Absolutely. And the more you've been there, it's like, okay, I know what's on the other side. Okay, I know what to expect.
It's a little bit like giving birth.
Totally.
Right? But the third birth is easier than the first one because our body remembers how to do this. Our mind knows how to do this. We stop fighting the contractions. My third delivery, I had this like, oh, if I stop fighting, it stops hurting so much. Like, oh, the same thing.
I know how to do this. And that's such a beautiful mirror for this work, this rebirthing work where, yes, it's scary. Yes, it's painful. Yes, you have to meet your pain body. You have to meet your trauma self. But you're literally dropping into your womb, awakening that power that made your body, and literally using your womb's birthing power to rebirth you over and over again, somatically and psychically. So it's a psychosomatic rebirth. Getting rid of the pain and trauma in the body and the stories of trauma from the mind at the same time. While, as I like to call it, cleaning up our temple for our higher self, our God and Goddess to come home. Because with an abandoned temple, God and Goddess is nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found.
Wow, Shelly, this has been a really amazing conversation. I just so much honor for the work that you're doing and the embodied practice that you've been living. Would you share any final words of wisdom for our listeners and then, of course, where they can find you if they would like to experience these journeys themselves?
Absolutely. And it has absolutely been my pleasure having this conversation with you, Amanda. So first, everything you're looking for is inside of you. That is the theme of today's podcast. It's literally everything you're looking for is inside your body. Yes, it's going to be scary, but what's on the other side is worth it. And then again, the second piece, you got to feel it to heal it. So to experience this sacred medicine, every single month, my husband and I offer a free ceremonial book reading. So it's a sacred cannabis rite of passage. I sing my book. I didn't realize when I wrote my book that it's actually written in a rhythm because the 7 different ways to wake up our life force, they're all rhythmic because pain is just stuck energy. Rhythm gets stuck energy moving.
Frequencies.
It's all about the frequency. So some people are like, why do you sing in your book reading? Well, this is also how ancient ceremonies were delivered. So the next one, well, there's one every month. So you'll have the link for when the next one is. And they're always free. And then for my sisters, every Saturday, I offer a womb kriya cannabis ceremony. All you need are resistance bands, the fabric non-slip kind that form a loop, and cannabis. Of course, if you do not desire to imbibe cannabis, people are welcome to still join. Just know that the journey from the head into your womb is going to be a little bit of a longer one. And the first ceremony is always free. So across all social media channels and my website, it's my name, drshelleyprasad.com. And then Somatophobia is on Amazon.
Amazing. Thank you. I will at some point join your ceremonies. I absolutely am very, I've done so much, but I know there's always more, and you never know what your body is ready to show you.
Absolutely. And it'll be an honor whenever you do choose to join.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Shelley, for your time and your wisdom. And for all our listeners, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for joining us on Awakened Motherhood. I hope today's episode inspired you and offered support for your journey. Remember, your story has the power to ignite change, and your resilience is a testament to your strength as a mother. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Share it with other mothers who might benefit from our stories of empowerment and healing. I invite you to connect with me on social media platforms at Amanda Quick Healing, or visit my website, amandaquickhealing.com, for more information on other ways to work with me. Until next time, keep embracing your divine self and discovering your warrior mama within. Thank you for being part of Awakened Motherhood, where your story is the spark for change.